Welcome to The Growth Shift, the podcast where we unlock the psychological and strategic blueprints of predictable growth. If you've built a successful business, you know the truth. Your expertise is high value, but your time is finite. The question is, how do you sustain that success without sacrificing your most valuable asset? We believe that the next level of success requires a strategic pivot, a fundamental shift that moves beyond the old ways. In every episode, we dive into the critical turning points of industry leaders and uncover how they're leveraging AI not as a shortcut, but as the strategic force for their next growth shift. Today, we dive in with a leader who is defining the future of their industry. This episode is brought to you by Valentix, your strategic growth partner. At Valentix, we believe that trust and authentic relationships are the only true currency in high-value business. We challenge the status quo by building an AI-powered client acquisition engine that enhances your human connection, helping you move beyond the slow growth of referrals. Our AI-powered systems eliminate the grind, allowing you to break through the noise, build high-value relationships, and free up your time to focus on transformative client impact. If you're ready to build a predictable growth engine, learn more at valentix.io. Now, let's dive into today's episode. Today on The Growth Shift, we're joined by Marcia Riner, the founder of Infinite Profit. Marcia's career is a masterclass in strategic business growth and entrepreneurial adaptation, spanning from financial planning to building a thriving growth agency. After witnessing her mother's business collapse due to lack of planning, Marcia dedicated herself to helping entrepreneurs build businesses for the benefit of growth now, with an eye on strategic exit opportunities. Her insights into revenue growth, operational efficiency, and the critical role of implementation in achieving sustainable success offer a powerful blueprint for growth-minded entrepreneurs. Marcia, welcome to The Growth Shift.
Thanks, David. I love it. I'm happy to be on here as a fellow podcast host. It's always great to be on the other side of the microphone for a while.
I couldn't agree more. I'm excited to have you on today. You've got quite the story, Marcia. Your journey began in the financial services world, right? Specifically in business and financial planning before you founded Infinite Profit. But that wasn't the beginning of the insights into your entrepreneurial journey, right? Your mother had a business, you saw what happened with that, and this was more or less the foundation that led you to where you are now. But tell us a little bit more about that foundational journey, the experiences, some of the greatest lessons that you took away from that, and how you really ended up where you are now.
Well, it's a great story, and I think that, we're better off when we learn from our parents, right? I know we go through and my kids are like, no, you don't know anything, right? And we all do that. But when I looked back and watched what my mom had gone through, she built a fantastic mortgage company in the early 80s, almost late 70s, early 80s, when it was just forming that model. And she became kind of the foremother of offsite processing, and big companies came to her and said, Rose, how are you doing this? She had 8 branches and everything was done in her little office. But what happened was, and what the big trigger was, is I learned things from watching her. She was very technical in office kind of help. But she got an offer, right? And it was in the late 80s, and it said, hey, we're going to pay you. And it was close to $1 million for her company. And she's like, I'm not ready to retire yet. She wanted it handed over to me, and I was kind of iffy on it at the time. And she didn't take the offer because she wasn't ready to retire. Well, fast forward, we all know what happened in 2008 with the big mortgage crash. Well, about 2010, she ended up closing all 8 offices. Was left with, like I jokingly say, a copier and some office furniture. She saved, thank goodness, throughout that, but she didn't exit when she had that opportunity because we think, oh, we've got more time, or, I've got a different plan. And it really made me think, if she had planned earlier, if she had done the right things in the business, she may have been able to stay on, oversee what was going on, still work, and not necessarily retire, but have an exit. And I think that was the piece that really didn't hit me until I was financial planning and working with clients. And this was probably 10, 15 years later. And the clients would come to me with this plan of selling their business as part of their retirement planning. And I know a lot of the audience is going, yeah, right? But I'd ask them, what are they doing to ensure that they can sell it and that they're going to maximize the value? And they never convinced me. And I thought, oh my gosh, this retirement plan is going to fail. So we better work on other opportunities. And fast forward 2016, life changes and all those kind of things. I got out of financial planning and started to really look at business planning and how to make it better and stronger. And so I started working on the growth strategies that make a company really great now and really good later on, and giving you the opportunity to exit and recapture some of your blood, sweat, tears, nights, weekends, savings, missed baseball games, all those things that most business owners go through, and try and recapture that. So that's kind of where the long story of the
Yeah, it's definitely a profound journey that you were on. And what I find really interesting is just how it is you came to finding what it is that you really wanted to do, let's say, or where you landed, what it is you're doing now, right? And what I mean by that is, you saw a situation play out with your mother, very successful business owner, right? Not necessarily able to step out of the business or back from it and oversee it, but she was still working for a paycheck at the end of the day, right? She wasn't necessarily running the business. It was running her in some ways. Right. And then as a financial advisor yourself, of course, within finance, most of it is patterns that you're looking for and how to use the right patterns or how to avoid the wrong ones. And with the clients that you were working with, you started to see perhaps similarities, especially on the business side of things, with what it is you saw play out in your mother. And the dots just connected for you, right? You realize that, there's so many people not seeing how this is coming together or what situation they might be putting themselves in. Why don't I find a solution or address this problem myself?
It really is that simple. A lot of us go through fighting trying to figure out what we're going to do. But if we just kind of let it happen and the flow happen, then those growth shifts happen, right? And they happen for the better and not like you're trying to force a square peg into a round hole.
And was that your growth shift moment? Was that the biggest eye opener or the biggest, most impactful occurrence that you had, that realization, or was it something else along the way?
I think that was probably the biggest, but I'm not going to say that that's the only one that has occurred, because my business has evolved and shifted since 2016 when I ventured into this space of it. And now here we are in 2026. It's like, oh, okay. It keeps evolving and innovating and improving, because if I sit back on my laurels and go, this is the way it's done and this is the way I'm going to do it, then my competition is going to pass me by and my customers aren't going to want to use me because I'm not moving into a space that they want, right? Just as an example, buyers today, they want to buy in an Amazon lifestyle, right? They want it yesterday, they want it at a discount, they want it on their doorstep, right? And if we don't innovate our business model and the way that we deliver our product or services to our customers, we're going to be left behind. And so, yeah, my business has changed dramatically from what I initially came out with in 2016 to where I am today.
Well, of course, right? Constant growth shifts, constant pivots, changes. As long as you're adapting and learning, you're moving in the right direction. With that having been the most impactful or the biggest growth shift that you had, right? Of course, it's what sparked your own entrepreneurial journey, or at least started it to what it is today. But all entrepreneurs going into business, all entrepreneurs, whether they have had businesses before or they're starting out for the first time, there are always unforeseen challenges that you fall within, right? Or that come to you. So when you made that, after that first growth shift, after you started out with infinite profit, what was perhaps the next most significant occurrence or lesson that you learned that allowed you to reshape how you think about business and delivery, not necessarily just about how you think about what you could do for business, but how it is you'll deliver it?
Well, kind of around the same time, my biggest growth shift was not necessarily launching out and starting my own business, but my original kind of format of that business was that I was going to do business planning, right, for exit strategies. And what was happening is the types of clients that I was getting, they were already had one foot out the door, and therefore it was too close to their sale, and there was nothing that I could execute on to help them improve the value of their company. So at that time, back in 2016, 17, probably later in 17, my coach at the time said, hey, Marcia, it's not working. You're not landing the right clients. So what if we shifted and said, let's work on the growth now that a growing company wants to do, and they'll have the benefit, these strategies will also have a benefit of having a great exit or a valuable exit, or even the opportunity to exit later on if they do this now. So it's kind of creating a win-win. And that was the biggest shift that actually happened. So instead of chasing the exit clients, I was chasing the growth clients and dangling the exit as an option or as a bonus benefit to them if they did this now.
Oh, I love that. Like, truly profound and impactful, right? Because most entrepreneurs and business owners, I would say at least 90% of them, I would think, and this is an assumption, have that thought cross their mind. Will I have the opportunity to sell this business? Will I want to? Or perhaps some started with that desire, right? So with trying to serve a smaller segment of a market as you were at first, and just trying to get clients who were ready for that exit, you were not just missing out on so much value for yourself and for your own company, but value that you could provide to your clients at the end of the day, your prospective clients as well. Because with so many business owners maybe dreaming of selling their business, of course, that's the outcome, that's the end goal, that's the result they're working towards. But
You would hope.
Cases, yes, yeah, often. But in most cases, they may never be able to get there without everything else that precedes it, right?
Right. And I think that's the important piece that most business owners think on. I'm a fan of saying, day one, you have to think about how you're going to get out of this entity that you're creating, this life. You're birthing a baby, right? It may be an ugly baby. It turns into a nasty toddler and a terrible teenager, but it is a baby that you're birthing. And from day one, you should think about the legal structure, the name of the company. My goodness, don't ever name your company Marcia and Family or Marcia and Co. because I can't sell that later on, right? Nobody wants to buy Marcia unless they happen to be a Marcia. So thinking of the things that you're doing now in your company that create an easier opportunity to run the company. Maybe it's more streamlined. Maybe I can take a vacation without having the trouble of my business follow me, right? I've got systems and people in place. I've got positive increasing cash flow that continues naturally, and I'm not having to beat everybody up to get it each time. I've got a marketing stream that's just natural and flows. These are things that make a great business now and are super valuable at the sale, because now a business comes in and says, you've got a clean running operating system there. You've got people in place. You've got business and contracts, and you've got things already that are attractive to me stepping in. It's a win-win. And I think that's why if you start early and start today, if you didn't start yesterday, start today. Then that's the time that you want to really look at your business as a system that doesn't have you as the bottleneck, and that you can get things done, and that it makes it attractive to future buyers, whether it's junior, a partner, the competition, somebody that just wants to avoid the first ugly years of starting a business. I mean, they could want to buy your client list. There's so many exits that are have a potential for you. But the more you prepare now, the better that option is 5, 10, 15 years away, that you'll get more for your company later if you do these things now.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. Marcia, you're dropping a lot of good nuggets for the audience right now. Why don't you tell us a little bit more about what the day-to-day looks like? What's the hands-on action of how you're coming in and you're actually helping your clients achieve these things?
Yeah, this is a great one. I started playing a little bit and kind of refreshing my language and making it easier to understand. As a business growth strategist, I'm really big in planning and putting it all in there. But what I've found over the last couple years, hence another growth shift and innovation needed, is that my clients would get this great plan with step by step by step. Here's exactly what you need to do to get to point B. They never do it. They wouldn't execute on it. So I started implementing and helping them to move closer to it. So now recently, I think that the shift that I'm looking at is not so much as a strategist, but as a installation person. as an installer of the frameworks that we're going to put in place and helping them get there. Because, when you're wearing 57 hats as a founder, owner, operator, and you got a couple of people on your team or you got a robust team, it tends to just kind of fall away unless you have somebody in there going, okay, this person needs to be doing this. Let's get some accountability. Here's the system. Here's the how-to. Let's implement it. Let's install it and get it moving for you. Then what it does for me is it gives me, yeah, Marcia, you really did do what you said. Well, I did what I said in the first place. You just didn't do what you were supposed to do. Now I do what I said and it's getting done. So it makes it even more impactful for the customers because they just don't have time.
Love the choice of words you use around your delivery, right? A lot of people would say implementation partner, but you're an installer, right? Because implementation might apply that this is something that's going to require ongoing from you, that the client would never be able to run it on their own. But by installing a system and a solution, it implies that we're going to get this up and running and optimized, and it's going to be something that lives there and can continue on without Marcia.
Yes. And it makes it, one of the fears buyers have is, this is going to be more work, right? The biggest thing that people hate is change. And if I go in and I say, I'm going to change your company and I'm going to turn it on its head, you're going to go, and your team's going to go screaming and running for the corners. But if I come over and say it's an installation, that sounds a little bit more structured, right? And easy and kind of step by step and done. Then they're like, okay, it's not changed. You're going to come in and install it and teach me how to work it, right? That's even better.
Marcia, could you share a story with us? I mean, it sounds like you're doing some incredible things, and I'm sure you are with your clients, but to make it a little bit more tangible for the audience, could you share a story with us of a client who came to you maybe struggling with their systems, unable to step back from their business, and maybe looking at wanting to approach an exit? I mean, this is just from my mind, but give us a story about, perhaps one of your most successful or impactful client engagements.
Well, I think I'll give you the most recent one that I've been working on. So that one's fresh in my mind and still in the throes of putting it all together. But I've got a 20-something with dad with deep pockets, and dad is funding an IT company. And so we're setting up the IT company in a way that allows the company to run smoother, to make sure that they're coming in and doing the right things for the right people, right? So we've had a lot of fun in going in and figuring out, really nailing down who their ideal client is. And they've had previous clients from some of Dad's partners that have come in that have given them the experience and the setup. But what we did is we figured out, who did you really want to work with, right? And how do we make it fun? So we've come up with some really fun and exciting things. It's a very snarky company, and we're playful in it, so we're having fun looking for that audience that will catch their attention. But some of the things that we're putting in place for them are things that are repeatable, right? So how do we onboard that client in a way that doesn't require the owner or the team player to constantly touch that person, right? Automations and AI and systems are helping us with that kind of thing. And then we're coming in and saying, okay, how could we be so irresistible to this client that we're taking all the fears and doubts and questions of having this major overwhelm of having a new IT system and a new cybersecurity system installed, right? That we're making it easier for them, for the buyer to say, okay, because we came in with a beautiful new offer that made it so simple that said, you're going to not charge me for all the installation. You're going to give me a free month, and all I have to do is commit for a little while for you. So you're taking all the stress and concern away from me? Yeah, I'll give you. I'm not happy with who I was with, so I'm ready, and I'll give you the opportunity. And I think those are some of the things that a growth partner comes in and says, where can we set this company up for continued success, repeatable over and over and over? And those are some of the systems that we've got more to install, but those are some of the systems in the front end that we're putting in that makes it really exciting for the company, for their buyers, right? So we're stepping new into a market with this fantastic family of neighbors. I can't drop everything because we're not live yet on it. but these characters that are going to be their spokespeople. And it's so fun to come in and really give life to a company in a way that would make them visible, attractive, easy to work with, and consistent monthly revenue. I mean, sounds like a dream.
Absolutely does. And, I think it sounds like a point where all new businesses wish they were, right? Having the tools, the systems, the strategy for delivery, for everything around it to support sustainable growth, right? Not just getting into something and not knowing when that first dollar will come in or how much chaos will when it does, or the second dollar, let's say. Marcia, we're talking about growth right now, growth of your clients. I want to learn a little bit more about growth of infinite profit. You mentioned you've gone through a couple of growth shifts. You've mentioned in the last few years, even you've made some pivots. You're now an installer, whereas previously, maybe you were just more of a consultant at the beginning. What's the next growth shift for infinite profit? What are you looking at changing right now?
Wow. Well, I think it's the changes in innovation. So, as a small company, I too am wearing 57 hats, but trying to make sure that I can deliver on my promises to my prospective clients, which is what a company has, right? And how can I deliver upon them in a better, smoother, easier way? And how can I not work, 20 hours a day, 7 days a week and stress on weekends, the one weekend I take off, right? How can I make that? So it's an internal growth shift that I'm working on right now to align my team to make more efficient and effective moves that actually allow me to, again, deliver on my promise easier and faster and with more satisfaction from the customers. So I'm using a lot of AI. I mean, AI is the tag word of the last year and this year, but it really is making things a lot easier. And it's also making it a lot easier on the customers I work with to be able to be more efficient and effective. And so that's it. It's more of an internal shift rather than an external shift on it. But I think having those automations, having those systems in play internally, having just faster service, because as I mentioned, that Amazon lifestyle, people don't want to wait months to get an installation done. They want it done yesterday and delivered on their doorstep this morning by 7 a.m., right? So I'm looking at my own systems and processes to make that a little bit smoother and faster.
No, I love that. And it's the internal shifts, operations, efficiency, automation that allows the external shifts in a more impactful way as well, right? Because if there's, we'll just use the word chaos for now, chaos within, right, then the chaos will only grow, right, as the company grows itself, right? So I love that.
Chaos is stressful.
Absolutely is. You mentioned AI. AI is becoming increasingly powerful for you and with your internal shifts. What is it that you're using AI for now with growth in mind?
Yeah, I love this. So I like to think of it in my business I've been reviewing. There's 3 parts I'm working on. So it's revenue growth, right? So I'm looking at my AI to come in and do some personalization, right? To really be able to do things at scale that used to be very cold and impersonal, right? Hi, John, in an email, right? Well, the rest of the body of the email had to be the same. Well, now there's tools that can make that email be more personalized, right? So, hey, John, I saw that you were just published in an article on LinkedIn. That was great. I saw there's blah, blah, blah. But I can do that at scale now. And so that's one of the ways that I think that personalization can lead to more revenue, because it's allowing me to be able to make more relationships that are going to bring people closer to me faster. There's sales automations and things like that too under that piece. But I think that the second place that I'm using AI that are really helping is to cipher through data. We often look at data as this overwhelming thing, but with AI, put the data into AI, and if it's proprietary data, you want to put it into the correct AI. You don't want to just throw it on ChatGPT and have it become public, but you can put data in and mine through it and get what you really truly need. And what that could do for you is it could streamline processes. It could streamline your angles in the way that you're reaching people and doing things. So with that data mining, I guess is the way to call it, is you can really improve what you're doing on a regular basis. And I think that that's just those are just 2 out of 4 that I'm putting into play right now that has really been like something that was only big companies did before. Now us little folks can step into the same arena and use the same information and do it at speed.
I love that you mentioned data. I think it's one of the most overlooked assets to most businesses, right? Most people don't really have interest in getting into data. And even when you do, it takes a lot longer. You miss things. But by using AI to analyze your data, things can happen a lot more quickly, a lot more precisely, and you can actually walk away with a tangible, clear picture and a plan of how to use that data as well. You don't even inherently need to understand it yourself, right, going into it, but you can still walk out with more than you had otherwise, we could say.
Well, let's simplify that real quickly. When we talk about data, it's not big data. It's not like mining through things. It could be, where are my customers falling out of my sales cycle? Right? It could be a simple question that you could look through and say, okay, where are they falling out? What do I need to improve to make it better and maybe improve my conversion? So instead of 10 people going through getting 1 person, maybe I get 2 people from 10 people going through. That's how data very easily can be used.
Well, absolutely. Or even taking transcripts from sales calls and having it advise you as a top 1% salesperson with 20 years of experience, where am I losing the connection? Where are they misunderstanding me? Where am I going wrong? How can I improve the questions I'm asking, right? It can be very, very user-friendly and straightforward. It's not to scare anyone off with the term data.
Exactly.
Now, you mentioned something really interesting that I think probably piqued the interest of the audience more than the data. Using AI when it comes to customization and personalization, right? For outreach, for messages. Client acquisition today relies on relationships, right? Sure, AI can make things easier, but too many people are abusing it for cheap, low quality touch points that are actually going to push those relationships further away from you. Right, but you're talking about using it for investing more time and more attention on an individual basis and starting to bridge that gap of trust. What is working the best for you today when it comes to using AI for client acquisition?
Wow. Well, coming from the simple point of just not having to sit down and think about the email that you're going to write, right? You can use it for copywriting and things like that. Never just go to market with what the AI does, but it's giving you that foundation of not having to look at the white screen with the little cursor flashing going, what am I going to write, right? It's using the brain power of the AI to do things like that. But I think the personalization piece is really, really important. As you mentioned, you're just getting bombarded by stuff every day, and the choices of companies that you want to work with are getting vast, right? There's so many out there. So how do you, as a company, stand out with the potential buyer you want? And so it comes back to research. So if you can find out something personal about the client that you want to target, right? Mass lists of 30,000 emails going out, it's not going to do it. I think our audience sees that you're just a mass, I'm on a list, right? But if you can personalize that by taking a moment, we're talking, go on LinkedIn, go on their social, read their website, or better yet, you can train your AI to go out and gather that information on something personal. Maybe it's something the company did. They funded a food drive. They did something. And if you can make a connection with the potential buyer with an introduction or a comment about something personal, you just jump to the top of the list because you took a moment to make that personal.
I agree more. Marcia, your story covers strategic adaptation and the critical importance of embracing technology for the founders, the leaders, and the growth-minded listeners who are navigating their own growth shift right now. What's the single most important piece of advice that you would leave them with about strategic planning and leveraging AI for sustainable business growth?
Good question. So I'm a planner at heart. My brain works that way. You give me a task, I need to see the bits and pieces. I accordion it out and then I bring it back in, right? It's just the way my brain works. So good or bad, that's what it is. But strategic planning is that. And having a partner that can see 3 steps ahead, 1 step ahead, 10 steps ahead, and put it into a plan of what you need to do. What is your best move, next move that will impact the bottom line, the top line, the long-term relationship, whatever it is, if you can have a plan that's the piece you're going to go on, you're going to improve efficiency inside of your company. You're going to improve the direction that the company's going, and you're going to reach your goals easier by having a strategic plan rather than chasing squirrels and there's a shiny object over there and so on. So planning is essential. And when you stack technology on your plan and you have it help you figure out what the next moves are and how to implement those moves in the most efficient cost savings way, it's the way. To use the Star Wars Mandalorian topic, it's the way.
The way.
That's
I
it.
love it. Marcia, thank you so much for joining us today and for sharing your story and your lessons with the audience. For anyone listening who might like to learn more about infinite profit or might even like to continue the conversation, what would be the best way to find you?
Yeah, thanks. Okay, so my company is Infinite Profit. You can find me at infiniteprofitconsulting.com. I'm actually launching a new website at infinite-profit.com, but either way, you'll be able to find me. But I think the best way to start with me is I like to give value. I love to get people thinking differently and outside the box and start to say, wow, there are more options than I originally planned. So I would love to give your audience a free way of doing that, very low. I'm not going to come in and sales pitch you or anything like that. But if you go to my site, profitbooster.biz, B-I-Z/growth map, you'll get to play with one of my GPTs. It'll take you through and you'll answer 7 or 8 questions that you should know. And then it'll help you give you 3 really good next steps that you can put into place like tomorrow and start to really move your business forward and make the numbers look a lot better. So I would encourage you to go. It's a lot of fun. It's really easy. And it doesn't require me to read the report to you. You get it instantly. And it's just some value I like to share and gets the mind thinking. But again, you go to profitbooster.biz/growth map.
Thank you again for joining us on The Growth Shift today.
Thank you.
Another powerful conversation on The Growth Shift. If you, like our guests, are ready to turn your expertise into a predictable, scalable growth engine, one that eliminates the grind of prospecting and enhances your high-value relationships, then it's time to connect with Valentix. We are not a marketing agency. We are your strategic growth partner, building intelligent systems that ensure your client acquisition is predictable, not dependent on chance. To see how our AI-powered frameworks can free up your time and fill your calendar with decision makers, visit valentix.io. Thank you for joining us on The Growth Shift. We'll see you next time.